Hello everyone, my name is Manor Raza and today we are going to talk about how clouds can be formed in a jar. Before I get started with the experiment, let's go over some of the phrases and how clouds are formed. Evaporation is the first step. Evaporation is the process by which water changes from a liquid state into gas state. Remember, the water is made up of tiny, tiny particles, and those particles are in motion. Consider the water on the surface of Earth. That means the oceans, lakes, and streams, but also the soil and even the drops and puddles that are collected on leaves, buildings, and even rocks. Sometimes you can see it on your car as well. Those particles are in liquid state and they have enough energy to escape, but they can rise into the air above us, above the surface, and evaporate. For example, if you see here, we have sun, and sun is providing heat energy to the water, the ocean, and the ocean is releasing water particles to the air atmosphere, and that is evaporation. Next, we have condensation. It's easier for water vapor to condense into water droplets when it has particles to condense upon. These particles, such as dust and pollen, are called condensation nuclei. Eventually, enough water vapor condenses upon pieces of dust and pollen to form a cloud. The condensation is a process where the water is turned from gas form into liquid form, and it happens when molecules of water vapor cool and collect together as liquid water, and that is called a cloud formation. As you can see, the water is evaporating and it's turning into gas form. And when it turns into gas form, it turns back into liquid form. And that is condensation, turning from gas form into liquid form. Another process includes transpiration. Plants draw water from their roots, stems, and leaves by regularly letting the water vapor and the other gases out of the pores. For example, you'd see tiny, tiny holes in the leaves. Those are the pores, and they collect water in them. This allows the root to take in more water from the soil and release water vapor by plant pores. As you see here, we have a tree, and tree has leaves, and it also has roots. Not only trees, every plant does that. It takes all the water and it drives all the water from its roots to its leaves, and those leaves evaporate the water, help evaporate the water into the thin air. And thin air gets the water collected into the liquid form to form the cloud. Now we know how clouds are formed. We have evaporation, where the motion of water particles escaping into the thin air. We have another step where is transpiration, where the transfer of water from root plants into the thin air. And then we have condensation, where enough water vapor is condensing upon pieces of dust and pollen to turn into a cloud form. Let's get started with the experiment. Hey young scientist, welcome to another science experiment video. My name is Manor Raza, and for today's experiment we are going to make a cloud in a jar. Let's get started. For the experiment procedure, you need a few things. For example, I have a mason jar lid. I can do my experiment in a mason jar, but the jar is too small, therefore you guys won't be able to see the experiment in a mini jar. Therefore, I got myself a glass water bottle, and I can replace the lid with a mason jar lid, and I'll be placing it like this. Next, I have hairspray, and I will have hot water. Make sure you let your parents do it. This is too hot. And I have lots of ice. Make sure the place is tidy to prevent any spills or damage. Start by pouring hot water into the jar and let it sit for 5 seconds. One, two, three, 4, 5. I'm going to cover it with the lid, and I'm going to wait 5 more seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When we add warm water into the jar, some of it turns into water vapor, and by adding ice cubes onto the top, the water vapor will rise to the top of the jar where it should encounter cold air. And due to the ice cubes, we are providing the cold air. The water vapor will condense as it cools down in order to form a cloud, or the water vapor must condense to something. We're going to wait a few more minutes and let it sit. The water vapor must condense to something natural, and in this case, we are using hairspray. The hairspray works as a natural occurrence on which the water vapor condenses onto to form cloud in a jar. Now I want you to observe the movement of particles inside the water bottle. That's the formation of cloud. When a good amount of condensation is formed, it's good to remove the lid so you can watch the cloud escape into the thin air. And that's the cloud in the jar, and it's escaping into the thin air. Thank you so much for watching my video. Take care. Let's talk about the science behind this experiment. When we added the warm water into the jar, some of it did turn into water vapor. The water vapor then rose to the top of the jar where it had encountered cold air, and we were providing cold air due to the ice cubes. The water vapor had to condense as it cools down. In order to form the cloud, the water vapor had to condense to something natural, such as air pollution. The hairspray works as a natural occurrence on which the water vapor condenses onto to form a cloud. Thank you so much for watching my video. Take care.